Dear students, welcome back to the online sessions on DCCN. In today's session, we are going to cover unit number 5 because unit number 4, it needs some more time to cover around 3 to 4 classes maximum. We require to cover the unit number 4. So meanwhile, unit number 5 is a very small unit. So that is why I'm planning to cover unit number 5. So today we'll try to go with the unit number 5 contents. So we already know from the earlier chapters the flow of data in the OSI model. Okay, what is the flow of data in the OSI model? We know there are 7 layers, right from application layer to the physical layer. And you should know the layers in sequence in this manner only. That means first layer is going to be application layer, then presentation layer, session layer, transport layer, network layer, data link layer, and a physical layer, right? Now that means whichever computer, we know that whichever computer want to interact with another computer or communicate with another computer, it has to satisfy these protocols in general. So that means in general, what we can say that the data is coming from application layer and going to the physical layer, and exactly reverse is going to happen at the destination computer. Okay. So it all depends on the approach that we deal, like bottom up approach, top down approach. Okay, so here I am going with the top down approach. So presentation layer is going to send its data by its header called as, application layer is going to send its data with its header known as application header, AP header. Then the data will go as a data to the presentation layer. Presentation layer is normally going to process the data given by the application layer and adds its header called as presentation header. And this header will come to here and it is given to session layer. Session layer is going to process the data which it got from the presentation layer by adding its header called as session header. Similarly, every layer is going to process and adds its header called as transport layer adds transport header, network layer adds network header, data link layer adds data link header, physical layer is going to add the physical layer at header. So this data is transmitted in the network via different routers, and that will be reaching to the destination computer. And exactly reverse process is going to happen at the destination computer. So this entire data with the physical layer header is given to the physical layer. Physical layer is going to takes the data by stripping of this particular physical layer, and the remaining data is being given to the data link layer. And data link layer is going to get processed this data after it strips off its data link header, it gives the data to the network layer. And this information is given to the transport layer by stripping of the network header. This information, it is given to the session layer by stripping of the transport header in the session layer. Like this, finally the data will reach to the application layer. Okay, so this is what the basic process of communication in the layered network architecture supported by the OSI model. Okay. So what is very important, we discussed in the earlier sessions about various things over there. Now to deal with application layer, we should know the overview of the actions performed by various layers. Okay, because that means in order to deal at application layer, you should know the following layers. What are all the layers which are there, and what is the overall working of each and every layer, that we should know. So most importantly, we can just go with the transport layer is a very important layer. And this transport layer, what it does, see, you should know this flow. Transport layer is going to get its data from session layer, right? Like that, network layer is going to get its data from transport layer. Data link layer is going to get its data from network layer. Physical layer is going to get its data from data link layer. So this flow you should know compulsorily in order to write something about that particular layer in the examination. Okay. So now transport layer is going to collect huge data coming from its topmost layers, that is from upper layers. So this huge data collected from upper layers are going to get breakdown into smaller chunks are smaller parts of data called as segments. That means the data coming out of transport layer can be called as segments. Some people call it as messages. So we call as segments. So every segment is normally divided into two parts. One is going to be the transport layer header, that is TCP or UDP header plus data. So UDP is known as unreliable connectionless service used in the live scenarios. So UDP is normally used as an unreliable connection and it is normally known as connectionless service. It is normally, this protocol is normally used for connectionless service, normally preferred for live scenarios. That means if at all a live cricket match has to be transmitted, then we transmit by using a UDP protocol. Okay. And next is TCP/IP. TCP/IP, if it is a header, TCP/IP is known as a reliable connection. And it is normally going to be a connection-oriented service. That means virtually the connection is normally going to get established before a transmission takes place in the case of the TCP/IP protocol. Now it handles this operation by means of three handshaking signals known as connection establishment, data transfer, and disconnection. So these three are the three methods used by the TCP/IP protocol. That means you have to explain these three protocol operations by using the vertical timing diagrams, as we have explained in the previous chapters. Very simple to understand these operations because it is simply a handshaking signals. Then next, the data coming from the transport layer is going into the network layer. So the network layer makes the best path determination using the logical addressing. That means who has to locate or who has to find out the logical address of the destination computer in the network? It is the network layer. So therefore, network layer makes the best path determination using the logical addressing method. So network layer functions we have discussed. It has to perform routing, it has to perform fragmentation, defragmentation, it has to perform, logical addressing, it has to perform internet working. So all these are the things it has to perform addressing. So these are the various functionalities of the network layer we discussed. So that means addressing means what? Logical addressing is an important part done by the network layer. Logical addressing is done by using IP addressing scheme. In case of internet or internet working, it uses internet protocol address known as IP addressing scheme, done by using two protocols known as IPv4, IPv6. IP version 4, IP version 6 protocols are the two popular protocols using which the network layer is going to find out or figures out the address, and then every packet coming out of the network layer is normally going to have this IP version 4 protocol or IP version 6 protocol, which contains the path, best path for a packet to get transmitted. So receive segments from the transport layer, and these segments are then converted, into packets. That means the network layer is going to receive segments from the transport layer, and after it really finds out the best path for a packet to take, then it is going to convert them into packets and embed the data of routing in the packet along with the data received from the transport layer. So therefore, the packet contains what informations in general? The packet contains source IP address, destination IP address, and the protocol on which the data is normally being transmitted, whether it is using a TCP protocol or UDP protocol to transmit the data. So TCP is basically a connection-oriented service. UDP is a connection-less service. And that header information is simply added along with the actual data, are known as load. So packet usually comprising of 64 bytes to 1500 bytes. That means it all depends on the type of the application you're dealing with. Minimum of 64 bytes packet is normally going to have. Now, most importantly, routers are located at the network layer. That means routers are going to process the network layers. That is the important point. So in between the source and destination computers, you're going to have routers. So routers are normally going to configure or reconfigure the data which is there or which is given by the network layer of the source, which is given by the network layer of the source computer. Therefore, routers are located at the network layer. Okay. The next one is data link layer. Data link layer ensures proper message transfer. That means it ensures reliable data more effectively. So it ensures proper data transfer or message transfer. So it is responsible for MAC address or physical address. That means it adds MAC address or the physical address. Now, what it does now, it receives packets from the network layer and converts them into frames. That means if you are talking, as I discussed earlier, if you're talking as frames, you're talking by staying at network layer. If you're talking in terms of packets, you're talking by staying at network layer. If you're talking in terms of segments, you're talking of the transport layer protocols. So that is what we mean by saying the working of a particular layer based on its term. So if the term is frames, we call it as the data coming from the data link layer. Means what you are talking in terms of data link layer protocols. So error detection is normally performed at the data link layer. Now frame is comprising of what? Packet has anyway come from the network layer, which is comprising of the all this data. So along with this, the data link layer is going to add the source MAC address and destination MAC address. Okay, so MAC address is media access control address, protocol address. So we normally going to have that. Now switches are located at the data link layer. So in between source and computer, along with the routers, you're going to have switches. So switches are normally used in between the source and destination computers to understand the data link layer protocols and to configure the data link layer protocols if necessary. Just like routers for the network layer, you're going to have switches for the data link layer. So you can modify the switches can modify the data link layer informations. The next one is the physical layer. Data from upper layers are represented as electronic signals. Now, electronic signals are known as symbols or codes. Okay, so we may have a channel codes, we may have a line codes, we may have symbols. So all these are something like electronic signals only. So OSI defines how data can be communicated from one computer to another computer by using all the above protocol architectures. Okay. Now, where is the part coming into picture for application layer here? Here it is coming now. See here, in the internet, imagine that there is an internet. Now also imagine that there is an internet cloud. What is the meaning of internet cloud? Internet cloud contains different types of routers, different types of network architectures, different types of topologies, right? Different types of communication technologies. Everything is really there in the internet cloud. Now there are two computers called as C1 and C2. One computer is using Windows operating system. Another computer is using the Apple Macintosh operating system. That means the data coming from Windows is in one format. The data understood by the Apple Macintosh is in another format. But still communication can be made because of this particular 7 layers of the OSI model. Okay, that means The OSI layer is the OSI layer, 7 layers of OSI model is going to suggest us methods to interact with the different types of the network. That means independent of the type of the computers or networks used in the internet cloud, the communication has to be there in between the two computers to ensure that we are normally incorporating all these layered network architectures. That is the main reason of going with. That means something like, we discussed about platform independency in the case of Java. Java means in order to run a program like Java program, you have to install Java virtual machine. Now, what is the advantage of that? Java virtual machine, whatever may be the underlying operating system, we really don't bother. Whatever may be the bit size of the operating system, we really don't bother. Only thing is, we need to have a Java virtual machine. Java virtual machine is compatible to around 56 different operating systems. That means that is the best interface so that we can have a communication on the internet. That is why, because of platform independency, Java has become so much popular in the practical world to develop the applications and to transmit the applications. Well, so that is what platform independence advantage. Similar to that, we need to have platform independency. We need to have platform independency irrespective of the type of the operating system used, irrespective of type of the networks used, irrespective of type of the communication technologies used. It doesn't matter. The data has to be transmitted. That means what? It is a more complex data. That means we are dealing a more complex data in the internet communication. When you write a simple letter, postal letter, what is that you're going to have? Whatever we write on the postal card should be understood by the destination, understood by the recipient. If you write in Telugu, they should understand Telugu. If you write in Hindi, they should know how to read Hindi. If you write in Urdu, they should know how to read Urdu. Conversion is not possible at destination, right? Because there are no protocols, enhanced protocols in between. Now, here in the case of internet work communication, that scenario is not going to, not at all going to be there. The reason being is that we have a layered network protocol architecture. So because of that, independent of the types of the networks, types of the environments, we can transmit the data. That means it is something like similar to achieving of platform independency in Java. Now, application layer does not include, this is an important point to understand here. Application layer is a protocol. See, all these OSI layer protocols are meant for communication in the internet world. That means in the internet, if at all you wanted to communicate, it has to satisfy OSI model. That means these 7 layers. These 7 layers are going to provide us the protocols to transfer the information from source computer to the destination computer. Therefore, application layer does not include Chrome, Firefox, okay, etc. browsers, but it provides protocols that make applications such as Chrome, Firefox, etc. can work collectively and correctly in internet. That means whoever writes the program for Chrome, writes the program for Firefox, or writes the program for Internet Explorer, or for that matter, any browser, now they should provide the application layer protocol. They should provide the application layer protocols as per the standards prescribed. That means the user, by using those browsers, user can able to transfer their files, user can able to transfer their emails, users can able to, use the DNS servers. It is all that services has to be provided by the browser based on this protocol. That means the browser is really going to contain the application layer software. That is what the first point is speaking to us. So second point is what? Application layer is used by the network applications. Yeah. So those applications are known as network applications. So therefore, the computer applications that use internet like Chrome, Firefox, etc. All these things are going to use the network applications. So network applications are nothing but what? Your telnet applications, telnet, mail server applications, YouTube, telnet, Facebook. All these are what, you know, network applications. Because when you are connected in the internet, then you can normally going to have all those services, right? Now we understand about Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, etc. All of them are called as web browsers. So web browser is a network application, right? So please understand these concepts. Now web browser comes under the network application, running in the PC or running in the any platform in for that matter, maybe a mobile phone, maybe a PC, but do not reside in the application layer. See here, the network application does not reside in the application layer. I mean to say the Chrome does not reside in the application layer, whereas application layer reside in the application layer is embedded in the network applications such as Chrome, Firefox, all those things. So this is what you should understand. Now, web browsers such as Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer are going to use the application layer protocols such as HTTP, HTTPS, SNTP, FTP. Okay, all these protocols at application layer are going to get implemented by these web browsers. So these web browsers has to implement these protocols. Now, whenever we type this on the URL, Uniform Resource Locator, it has to really take us to that particular server. So all these protocols are used to perform various operations, like as it is suggested, file transfer protocol, web surfing, that is HTTP, emails using @ operator, telnet services. To connect virtual terminals, we use telnets. Like that, we can just have presentation layer now. So the use of presentation layer is what? It uses the Secure Socket Layer Protocol, SSL protocol. Secure Socket Layer Protocol is being used by the presentation layer to convert characters and digits to machine language. So it converts the given symbols, given data in terms of characters and other symbols into digits. That is, that means it. You may type a digits like 0 to 9. You may type characters from A to Z. You may have special symbols. All these are converted into the machine language by the presentation layer. ASCII code to the BCD code. So all these conversions can be done by the presentation layer. So therefore, what are the functions of presentation layer? Presentation layer functions are going to be translation of the code from one type of code to another type of code, like ASCII to BCD, like characters to machine language, all these things. It involves in data compression and data expansion. It performs encryption and decryption of the data based on the underlying operating systems. Okay, that is what important point. The next one is session layer. Now, what is session layer will do? The job of session layer is almost or similar to hiring a different event managers to conduct a function or a party. Nowadays, what is happening is to conduct a function, we are hiring a event managers, right? So event managers are going to take care about various events in the function, right? So similar to that, we are going to have the session layer. So session layer uses the application program interfaces known as the event managers. So session layer uses the application program interfaces to establish a connection and remove a connection to the destination computers. So it uses a NetBIOS systems, that is a network basic input output systems, to perform these activities. Now, what this session layer is actually going to do, let us see what the job network layer is going to do. The network layer is normally used to interact with the server. Server may be a computer, it may be a source of information for a client, whatever could be the reason. But what is the process the session layer is going to do? Session layer is going to meant to perform three activities. First one is authorization using the username and a password. Say I want to use a banking application. So to access a banking database, we need to have a username and a password. So first of all, user has to be authenticated. If user is authenticated, then he's going to get authorization request. That means the bank server is going to send an SMS to the registered mobile for security reasons. After he gives the correct information from that, then he is going to get authorized to access the data. Then next, after that, he is going to access the data from the server. Okay. Now, in between, who are going to be there? In between, the hackers are going to be there. Hackers are going to simply steal our data. They can steal our data in between the client and the server. So here we have to be very much careful about giving our valuable informations. So we should not give valuable informations which are something like your phone numbers, your email IDs, so on and so forth, which are more secure for you to have whenever you deal with the banking application. So never share this data, whether you are in a Facebook, whether you are on WhatsApp, whatsoever it is, never share. Because so many people are in between there, intruders, hackers are really finding out data from all the users. Okay, so this is what problem we have here. So still a lot of work has to be done over here. So after authorization, then a session has to be maintained between client and the server. So until the banking transaction completes, the session has to be continued. So for this, what this session layer will do? The session layer is normally go for tracking the server usage called session management. So it normally implements the session management protocols to keep track of the server. So therefore, the server is going to keep track of the file transfers like text, images. That means session layer will be always live. It will be open his eyes continuously until it completes the transactions. Okay. So now here web browsers performs all the functions of application layer, presentation layer, and session layer. That means once after data is going to get released from the physical layer to the nearest router. Now the router can access data up to what level? Up to the transport layer at the most. Above that is not accessible to the routers, bridges, all these things. So therefore, web browsers are going to perform all the functions of application layer, presentation layer, session layer. That means the intruders can interfere here also. They can really change this data and they can manipulate with this. So you should be careful about data sharing. The next one is transport layer. Transport layer controls the reliability of data communication for end-to-end communication with reliability and cost effectiveness has to be there whenever data has to be transmitted or communicated. Now here it's normally going to control the reliable data communication through the segmentation, to the process of segmentation, flow control, error control. We have seen flow control, error control in the case of data link layer also. Same flow control, error control will be once again repeated for transport layer as well for certain applications. If data link layer involvement is not there for that particular packet, then the transport layer has to compulsorily perform the task of flow control, error control for such kind of a data. So huge data coming from the session layer is divided into various segments known as simply data units. So this data unit is comprising of what? Source address, destination address, sequence number, so on and so forth, trailing bits, tag bits, so many things will be there here. That is synchronization bits. Many things will be simply added here. So the next is flow control method is normally implemented by the transport layer, which manages the speed of transfer of data from source computer to the destination computer in the internet. So this flow control is going to handle different data rates. Now, what I mean by saying different data rates is that, say, for example, server is running at a speed of 100 Mbps and a mobile host is running at a speed of 10 Mbps. That means host or a server the server can send its data at 100 Mbps speed, but host cannot receive the data at that speed. That means if at all server want to transmit its data to the host, mobile host, it has to transfer its data only at this speed, because the client speed is very less. This is called flow control. So first of all, what the server will do, server will send some, server is always running at high end. So therefore it will reduce, it may send a request to the mobile host asking to have a communication at the speed of say 60 Mbps. Then mobile host is going to give acknowledgement, negative acknowledgement to the server and states that I cannot really run at that speed. Then the mobile host will send its speed of operation, stating that I am okay with 10 Mbps speed. Then the server is going to send its data with 10 Mbps speed so that the mobile host can receive that data on the line, coming on the line. So now, because of this handshaking, what happens? The transport layer is going to slow down. The transport layer is going to slow down the data transfer operation. Obviously, whenever handshaking is involved, the operation is going to get slowed down, definitely. So next is error control method, that is checksum we have used, especially CRC code we have used to recover the lost bits. So ARQ, automatic repeat request, checksum, and CRC are the methods used to control the errors. Okay, so error controlling can be done using that. Then protocols we have used, we'll be using at transport layer is going to be called as TCP and UDP. UDP is normally meant for multimedia file access protocol. It is to access multimedia file, we use UDP protocol. YouTube, to connect to YouTube, to connect to file transfer protocols, we normally use this. And to connect to DNS server, voice over IP, it is faster and no feedback. So UDP does not have any feedback because it is a connectionless service. In connectionless service, we cannot have a feedback. Okay, so we can have a feedback only in the connection oriented service. Now TCP is a connection oriented service, therefore you can have a feedback. Now since we have a feedback mechanism, definitely TCP service is a bit slower than the UDP service. Okay, so it uses, it is meant for, TCP is meant for World Wide Web, WWW, FTP, where whole data delivery is going to be a must for the data transfer. The next one is network layer. So it works for transmission of received segments. Segments are received from transport layer from one computer to the another computer. So computer located at different locations in the network. So from one computer to another computer, which is located at different location in the network. Now, what this network layer will do? Network layer has to figure out this network address. Say there is a computer A, there is a computer B. Imagine that there are two computers. Say A, this is a computer A, this is a computer B. Two computers are there, identified by IP address IP1 and IP2, and they'll be connecting to a network type 1, and this IP2 is connected to network type 2. Now imagine that the IP1 address has been that has been given by network layer is going to be 192.168.1.1 is the host address. There will be some network subnet address that will also there will be added to this, and this network is normally connected to the routers. Router is connected to another router. So this means this router is Facebook servers are connected to the routers. Like this network layer is normally going to transmit the packets with IP addresses, IP1, IP2 data. And like this communication is normally going to happen between the two computers. using the IP address, network address, okay, in terms of packets. So it transmits all of them in terms of packets. Along with data, it is going to have IP address, one IP address 2, that is source address, destination address, right? And subnet address, all these things will be given over here. So IP address, IP1 and subnet address will be provided in the packet. Therefore, what are the functions of network layer? Definitely addressing it has to do. Logical addressing preferably we perform. Routing it has to do. It has to find out the path, determine the path determination has to be done. So it has to shortest path first, broader gateway. It's going to support broader gateways. It is going to support ISIS links here to have a communication. So logical address is provided by using IPv4 or IPv6 plus masking bits. The next one is the data link layer. The data link layer, what the data link layer is going to do, it is going to add some more information to the data provided by the network layer. That is called MAC address. It provides MAC address at the data link layer. So physical addressing is done at the data link layer, where MAC address of sender and receiver is added apart from the bits apart from the trial bit added in the data link layer. So this entire data is now called as a frame now. That means frame is bigger than packet. Packet is bigger than segment. Okay, this is what you have to understand. So MAC address is embedded in the network interface card of a computer, which is of 12-digit alphanumeric number. This MAC address is embedded in the NIC of a computer, network interface card. Every computer, every device to be identified in the internet is always going to have a unique MAC address. This is very, very important. If MAC address is known to others, the others can crash your system. So therefore, MAC address is very important. This MAC address is stored in the network interface card, which is usually a 12-digit alphanumeric number. That is an important thing. And that address is added by this particular data link layer protocol. Data link layer is a software which is embedded in the network interface card of a computer, used to transfer data in the local media of a computer. Of course, data link layer is definitely a software which is going to embed in the network interface card to have a communication. It allows the upper layers to access the media using framing technique. The upper layer to data link layer is going to be what? Network layer, transport layer. So using framing technique, it is going to allow the upper layer to access data. Anyway, that is the technique which we have to prefer, because this is framing technique, means data link layer is going to have a frames. So using framing techniques, the upper layers can access the data of this data link layer. Controls how data is placed and received from the media using a medium access control protocol, error detection control protocols. Okay, so that means using the MAC and error detection, it is going to control the flow of data. So this medium access control avoids collision of data using CSMA protocols. We discussed this collision, carrier sense multiple access protocol. We discussed this already, how it is implemented while sharing single media for multiple devices. Then finally, the application layer. See, the application layer programs are best suitable for the client server technology. That means application layer protocols are normally meant for the client server based type of the technology. What is the meaning of client server based technology? How the application layer is going to involved in the communication, how it performs data transfer. See, you're going to have a client, you're going to have a server. You're going to have a client, you're going to have a server, and you're going to have many other applications in the internet cloud. So client is going to send a request. See, this number one is a request or a query to the server. Now, if server is having that information, it simply responds to that. If server is not having that information, then the server is going to request that from a database server. Then that data is given to the server. Server is going to in turn gives the data to the client. If at all the client is going to request the application or something like applets, where the client cannot really store that huge information, it sends request a query to the server by giving the data, and the data has to be processed by the application server. So what the server will do now, the server will simply send a request to the application server to execute this particular data based on the application on which it is having, and a result has to be sent to the server. Then it's going to send the result to the server. Server will in turn send that response to the client. So therefore here we'll speak about this as going to be the request response signaling, right? So now user is going to have a data, user is going to give the data to the application layer. Now application layer is going to provide security, different applications like email, FTP, telnet, so many applications, and all this normally done by using DNA servicing, addressing we'll discuss just now. And after all that, after performing all that activities on the data, user data, it is given to the transport layer. Okay. So let us look into the applications of the application layer. So it has to provide email services. It has to provide net news services called Usenet. It has to provide World Wide Web services, multimedia services for audio and video communication. It has to provide remote procedure calls, RPS, to have a file, remote file transfers and remote file access mechanisms. That means in a client server technology, there is a client. This client may require services from various types of servers known as FTP server, multimedia server, WW server, Usenet, email server. And appropriately there is going to be a server, and this server is normally going to give the data to the appropriate clients. Like this communication is normally going to happen between a server and the client. So like this, you can have a number of clients like this. So these clients are normally interacting with the server applications. Now, usually this is going to be a DNS. So user in fact will interact with the DNS server. DNS server will really connect us to the appropriate server to get the information. Let us look into DNS service system now, domain name system. So why is this domain name? Domain name is nothing but giving alias name to the number is known as domain name service. Since we cannot understand the numbers, so we give the name. That means it is used to map an alias name address to the IP address. We cannot remember 192.168.51.1.2 like that. We cannot remember for different systems. How many systems will we be having in the network? We're going to have infinite number of systems. So identifying the systems with a number is very difficult. Therefore, a name has to be given. Who will give that name? It is the domain name server. So DNS is used by the application layer for mapping purpose. So what it does now, this www.gmail.com will be mapped to this address 192.4.2.1, so on and so forth. That means user can remember this descriptive information than the numbers. So user remembers this, user types this on the browser, and this is given to the DNS server. DNS server will in turn connect you to this particular IP address in the internet. That is what done by the DNS server. That means this is the user. User is going to send his contents. User is normally going to, that means, say for example, this DNS server is always going to be reconfigurable. What I mean by saying reconfigurable, say for example, DNS, the user is going to have something to be stored at a particular server. At a particular server, user want to store some application. So now user is going to give the name to that service and the IP address. at the very first time, that will be simply stored in the DNS server. Next time what happens? Whichever user in the internet want to access that, he'll simply give that name. Today's world, so many people are creating their own databases. Now what they give us only URL, name of the URL, like just like Gmail, just like other website addresses, they'll give the website address, that's it. Now what this DNS server will do, this DNS server will in turn map this name to the IP address and connect this user to the appropriate server. That is what happening over here done by the DNS server in the application layer. So if data or applications are huge where single server cannot really serve to provide mapping, we use the DNS servers. Because in today's world, in internet of the network of networks, we have different services. So different services cannot be handled by a single server. So everything is going to be huge in its own arena. So therefore, we have to use the DNS servers. So what is the process of DNS server? Just now I explained this. User is going to have some host name. He's going to give the host name to the FTP client. So this is given to DNS client, and DNS client will give in turn to the DNS server. DNS server will give a response with its IP address to the FTP client, and via this FTP client, this particular user or a human being is connected to the transport layer or the layered architectures after the application layer. That means application layer, presentation layer, session layer will be coming as a single unit that is given to the transport layer. Now to perform this job, there are so many types of DNS servers. So here there is a DNS server. There are so many DNS servers available called as DNS recursive resolver or DNS solver by the internet service providers. Root name server. It is going to come with 13 sets of letter.root-server.net. So it is operated by 12 organizations, right? The next is top level domain, known as TLD, top level domain name server, authoritative name server. These four are the different types of DNS servers which will be used. Now, what is a root server? Root server is going to have a letters between A, B, C, so on up to M, except G, because G is the basic root. Root of all the roots is called G. Therefore, that is reserved for the root server, ultimate root of the entire servers. Now, TLD stores information of all the domains sharing a common domain extension with the dot domain. I mean by saying that means .com, .net, .edu, .in, all these mapping is normally stored in the TLD servers. So .com TLD name server stores all the websites with the extension called star.com. So all the .com websites, DNS addresses or IP addresses are mapped in the DNS TLD server. Similarly, authoritative name server stores the IP address of the requested servers. It can be found with the following commands on command line interfaces like nslookup, set query. So like this, when you simply type up this, you normally going to get the various addresses. Like if you type nslookup on the command window, then you normally going to get this IP address. Okay, it says that this NS lookup address is going to be this. Okay, so this is how the application layer is normally going to access various servers by using the DNS servers. Okay, so this is what regarding unit number 5. Unit number 5 is going to be very, very small unit. Only thing is that what the application layer is exactly doing after being understood of the various working of various layers. Okay, so thank you very much for today's session.